All right, welcome in, everyone. It is Thursday. It is time for Full Court Press. As always, we come on and recap the night before on this show. Rob, not a good night for me. I went 0-3 last night, and, I always – I'm going to look back at my night, win or lose, but the concerning thing for me last night is it was an 0-3 where I was just plain wrong. Like I had two games move against me. Typically, like, that's not the end of the world. I listen, like, you're not going to be on the right side of every single line move. It's like sometimes they're gonna get shoved back in your face. I don't usually like look at that and say, oh, well, it's like the game has no chance. But last night for me, it kind of felt like I was on the wrong side in my game. So, I mean, I guess if you're going to have an 0-3, it's not the worst time in the world to have it after you've won for 4 straight days. So I was coming in on 4 straight winning days, kind of gave it all back in one shot, but up 60 units January, February combined. So been a really good run into March, had a great start to March, gave back my great start last night, Rob. So only one thing to do, try to get it back today. How was your Wednesday night?
It was good. 2-0 last night, both totals. One where we didn't talk about the game, but we talked a little bit about the university off air. North Florida, West Georgia over the total, 159.5. Got there fairly easily. Was off to a flying start from the get-go. And then the game that we left here for folks, Adam, was a client play that I gave out, the Florida State team total over against Pittsburgh. And anybody who watched that game, if you had Florida State, you absolutely want to, go seek shelter so you don't harm yourself. But even if you're like myself and you had over 72.5, you're thinking, why am I sweating this at the end of the game? There was absolutely no reason to be sweating that. But FSU went stone cold. Pittsburgh got red hot. Florida State does get there in the end by a couple of points on free throws. But it was a 2-0. It's been a really good week to start this week. He had a 4-1 on top of that. So 6-1 the last 2 days. We'll see if we can keep that rolling here today.
Yeah, I'm glad you bailed us out last night. 2-3 for the joint package. It's not the end of the world, I suppose, if you are on mine and Rob's all access, which is you get all of our plays. I guess for me, the two bright spots, I suppose. One, our little daytime action got there. Florida Gulf Coast pulled away in the end. If that was an interesting one. I'm actually surprised that covered 7 the way that played out. Although they were far more dominant than that. If you were watching that game, like I texted CT and I was like, you should bet Florida Gulf Coast second half. Like they should destroy this team in the second half. It's just, it took them to the final 3 minutes to actually do it. But they get there, win by 11 in the end. And then our feature game went extremely well. Arkansas on the over. No doubter right there for the feature. I am kicking myself that I didn't circle back and have Arkansas on my card because could have got that 7.5 at one point. And what a no sweat result that was. Big time bounce back for them off of the Florida loss. So, Rob, that brings us to today's feature game. We have a lot of conference tournaments to talk about today, but we're going to start in the Big Ten on Peacock. The big game of the night for the power conferences, if you will. Michigan hits the road, Carver Hawkeye Arena. And the first thought I had here, Rob, was, boy, if this was still a Fran McCaffrey Iowa team, I'd probably be interested in Iowa as the home dog. But, as much as Iowa's probably better than they've been the last couple of years, or I think that's debatable at this point, I just don't know if I want to go against this Michigan team with a Iowa team that doesn't have a multitude of scoring options. So that's sort of where I want to start the handicap because, I'm not ruling Iowa out as a dog. And I see Shane Russell says he likes Iowa plus the points. And that is a healthy number to be getting at Carver Hawkeye, especially when you've got a team in Michigan that's wrapped up the Big Ten regular season. But the other point I'll throw to you, Rob, is, Michigan's got to be seeing their peers, the Floridas, the Dukes. They haven't taken a night off. They're just still out there taking teams out in body bags. How bad does Michigan want to do that here?
Well, if I just refer back to Dusty May quotes all season long, I would think they want to do it. Dusty May still, as of 10 days ago, talking about how the team hasn't hit its ceiling yet. And I think you make the better point here, Adam, is that no, Michigan has nothing to play for as far as Big Ten conference tournament seeding is concerned. However, the logjam for those number one seeds in the NCAA tournament, the four number ones, they become interchangeable almost each night now. And with a loss, you could find yourself. I don't think Michigan would find themselves on the wrong side of it with one loss, but if they went into the Big Ten conference tournament and lost their first outing, a couple of those, and all of a sudden you could be replaced by one of the other four teams that's had a really good season and could get hot and win their conference tournament. So for Michigan, there's some incentive. For Carver Hawkeye Arena, it's a tough place to play. For Iowa, it really is the Bennett Sturtz show, right? I mean, if not for Sturtz, and he's as good as it gets. I mean, for those who haven't seen Iowa this year and haven't seen this point guard play, I kind of liken him somewhat to Kentucky's Tyler Hero from body frame, from vertical ability, but Bennett Sturtz handles the ball 15 times better than Tyler Hero does. So you had that huge combination of shooting, jumping, a vertical ability, and of course getting to the rim whenever he wants. He'll be a focal point of Michigan's defense. I just question whether or not Iowa has the ability to stop Michigan's front line. I mean, Iowa's got some size, but it's not the type size that Michigan has here as far as quality size is concerned. So a motivated Michigan, I wouldn't probably think twice here. However, we do have to go back to the fact that they've been overpriced in Big Ten play for the majority of the season. They've won a whole rack of Big Ten games that they haven't covered. And so this could fall into that category very easily. This could be, 79-72 Michigan and an Iowa cover. Iowa's obviously going to play with 100% focus, motivation, last home game here for Iowa, all of that stuff. I do fear the fact that Iowa could get absolutely get hit with a knockout punch and not be able to recover. You know what I mean? Like you referred to Fran McCaffrey's teams. Fran McCaffrey's teams could get down 15-16 and three-pointers later, be right back in the game if you're Fran. This isn't that team as far as offense is concerned. So I don't really have a firm side opinion. I would think this game gets over 146.5. If you play Michigan, your hopes of making this a 73-66 type game aren't good. Just not good if you're Iowa. And I'm sure they don't want to play up and down 94-foot tempo, but I don't know that they can help that in portions of this game. For me, I think the money move toward the over here, which I see quite a few. In fact, more 147.5s now than anything. It's raised up 2 points. I think that's probably correct. I would look that direction here. I wouldn't go much higher, though. I mean, 148.5 is probably your limit here. I think 149, you have to stop and think a little bit. But at this number, 147.5, I would play over.
See, Rob, the problem is I do have a firm. So here's the thing, like Shane saying it's a 5 to 6 point win for Michigan. Bayou says Michigan wins 72-66. Here's my issue is if I were to just trust my number, then I have a pretty strong side opinion toward Iowa, especially in that 9.5 range, because my number is like 5.9, right? Like, and initially I see that and I say, well, you're probably too low there because Michigan is Michigan, and we've seen what they can do to teams, but also, Rob, that stretch of over a month where Michigan could not cover a spread like this. Right. And they haven't really covered spreads like this consistently the majority of the season. So, I don't think I'm maybe that I look at 5.9 and say, well, there's no way the game should be priced that way, right? There's no way Michigan should only be a 5.5 to 6 point favorite. But like, I do think that it's reasonable to think that 9.5 or 9. I'm seeing a couple nines right now. It looks like we're trending back toward 8.5 most places. I think it's reasonable to say, oh, well, if you got a 9 or a 9.5, that's too high. Now, what could help you there? One, the fact that it's Carver Hawkeye, it's their last home game, and Michigan has a very big game on deck, which, I guess theoretically could be a look ahead spot, right? Like you talked about, they've already had the Big Ten wrapped up. So they could go loss here and they still outright win the Big Ten. But if you're looking at these final two games, I mean, Michigan State at home to close out the season on Sunday, Rob, that's certainly the game that's probably got your eye a little bit more. But then again, I go back to the fact that, well, like theoretically, Florida was in a similar spot, and we've seen Duke in the same spot a couple of times, and those teams went out and won by 30. And I kind of have Michigan as they're in the same vein as those teams. So that's, I guess I have that in the back of my head. But when you look at Michigan, the games that they seem to like really cover, right, are like the Illinois game where they only need to basically win the game. The Purdue game where they go to West Lafayette and win 91-80. Look at some of the other ones in this same stretch. Obviously, they destroyed UCLA, but like they didn't cover against Northwestern. They didn't cover against Michigan. And then go back to January, they didn't cover a single one of these big spreads. So I do lean toward Iowa. The rebound, you made a point about the front court, Rob. Iowa's a bottom 10 rebounding team in the country. There could be a lot of second chance, easy buckets here for Michigan in this game, which is a concern. This is not as strong of an opinion for me as yesterday's feature where I really did like Arkansas. But that number does feel high. I think I'd have a hard time talking anyone off of Iowa at 9 or better. And I guess I'll kind of leave it at that. Do you have anything else to add there?
They're never in this situation this year, so we have no. And in fact, I don't know the last time Iowa was a 9.5-point home underdog to begin with. It just doesn't happen. However, all that being said, home court hasn't really been that favorable to Iowa this year. Play a power team in Illinois, lose the game straight up by 6. Play Purdue, lose by 21 at home. Win a bunch of close games against lesser competition. Did beat Nebraska here 57-52. But again, in the world that I think in, I just don't think you can get Michigan into 57-52. It would be favorable, but you're just not going to get this team to play that type of game. So for me, one more time, I left at Bayou saying 72-66 because I had used 73-66 as an example that I don't think can happen here. I would be looking over 147.5.
I was going to say the final thing I'll add is I saw another comment in the chat that says Iowa doesn't get to 65. I don't think that's how this game's going to go. I think if Iowa doesn't cover, it's because they gave up 90. Like it's just Michigan just had like, another one of their efficient offensive performances, and they put up 90 and gave up 77, something like that. Like, so I'm with you, Rob. I think it's more likely that if Iowa loses this game and doesn't cover, they just got run out and it probably goes over. Again, that's I think it's tough game from that. Colin says throw Michigan in the money line parlay, they're going to win. Yeah, I mean, but like do you rule out the fact that Iowa just has like their signature like big effort here? I mean that I don't know. It's tough to see for me, but it's not impossible that like Iowa would win this game with Michigan having Michigan State coming up. I don't know. Tough to make. I guess it's tough to come on and make a case for that. But Titan CT saying he's kind of likes Iowa. Yeah, listen, I think if you get 9 or better, at least from a numbers perspective, you've got a decent bet on Iowa. That's we can just leave it right there. All right, Rob. Here is I see the board moving as it often does during this show. So what I'm going to do, because I'm going to talk about a game that I think I just want to pull up the number. I'm going to give out my leg of the parlay right now, and it is a client play. I'm going to my odds screen here. if I can ever get rid of the 700 pop-ups on Odds Logic right now, I can get back to the odds screen and see what the current price of this game is. And here we go. So yeah, all right, this one's moved quite a bit. So since we're probably going to do a 3-teamer anyway, I'm going to put it in to our parlay. I saw Colin and a couple others talking about this game. I'm going to go to the Ohio Valley. And one of my client plays today, I have a 4% play on SEMO, Southeast Missouri State, on the money line, which was minus 125 when I bet it, and is now considerably higher. So do what you will with that. What I always say is, like, you could put your risk. You could risk what you would risk on a 4% money line parlay at minus 125 and just play it a little bit smaller. You could try to hop on in play. Or you could just bite the bullet and lay a little bit more, because I do think that this is the right side. And so do what you will with that. So I want to take you back, Rob, to last night, where your boy was forced to stay up until about midnight watching Little Rock play basketball. It was as painful of a first half as I've watched in a long time. At one point, they had missed 19 straight shots. I think that was the final tally. I know you say they shoot it sideways, and I don't think I've ever seen a better representation of that than what I watched in the first half last night. They managed to come back and take a lead in that game with like 5 minutes to go. Now, the thing that I'm not going to harp on the game last night. Listen, Little Rock played a terrible first half. They pressed Lindenwood in the second half, came all the way back to take a lead. Lindenwood made some big plays to win and cover, and honestly, they probably deserve to. But the thing that put me on the SEMO side right out of the gate today is I think Anias Futrell is going to be out for this game. The reason I say that is he suffered an injury early in this game, or early in last night's game. He was fighting it. He was limping. He it looked like he tweaked a hammy, Rob. And as someone that's had the hamstring injury a couple times during my sports career, which was very, very long time ago, I can tell you that when you sleep on that hamstring and have to try, like, you're not playing 24 hours later. Like, you might be able to fight through a game that you're already in, but as soon as the hammy, like, as soon as you go to bed and stuff like that, I just don't think you're playing 24 hours later. And of course, Futrell has been one of the best players in the Ohio Valley this year. 17.4 points per game for that Lindenwood team. I truly don't see how they beat a good team without him. He tried to play last night, but he only scored 4 points. He was 2 for 9. And he was almost like a net negative when he was out there for points in time. But, like, I think if he's not out there, that is big time concerning for me with, against a SEMO team that, in my opinion, might be better at Lindenwood. Like, they play similar to Lindenwood, but they might be a better version of them. So I took SEMO. That money line at whatever it is going to go into our money line parlay. It's a 4% play for me at minus 125. Rob, talk to me about how talk to me about the total if you can, because you've kind of nailed totals with these teams. That's got to hurt Lindenwood. Maybe their pace and does this game become out slower because of that?
Season history, the two games that they played, Adam, are 360-degree polar opposites. 164 total the first time around, with Lindenwood as the winner. Second time around, SEMO wins by 12. They only score 134. That's a 30-point gap. SEMO seemed to favor, and both teams won on the other's home court. So home court had nothing to do with this. They both played well as the visitor, but Southeast Missouri, for what it's worth, they got this better of the second game, and it was a 30-point gap, and it's not necessarily because of pace. And the first game was Jackrabbit style, up and down the floor, huge 81 possession game, 72 possession game. The second time around is still extremely quick, only 134. Lindenwood didn't shoot it very well at all, 3 of 16 from 3. So SEMO found a way to defend them. To your point about Anias Futrell, the two games against SEMO this year, 28 and 22 points, 50 points in those two games. And just to accentuate how the injury comes into play last night, where he still probably had adrenaline flowing, he took 18 shots in the first game. He took 13 shots in the second game. He took 9 shots total last night. It kind of shows you that he didn't even get the double-digit shots, that it was bothersome. And anybody here, like you said, anybody listening or watching today, those types of soft tissue injuries, they just don't, overnight, they don't get better. I'm sure that the training room has something they can attempt to do to have him gut out 2 hours of basketball here with but then, that every time he goes to the bench, things tend to stiffen up. Every time when you stop for halftime, things tend to stiffen up. I think it's a huge advantage for SEMO here. The fact that they played the late game, and it was let's talk about the rest of the team. It was a taxing effort for Lindenwood. I mean, those weren't easy minutes. Being pressed in the second half isn't easy. It takes a lot of energy. I do agree. The money obviously agrees, Adam. This game was pumped up to 3.5 off of the opener of 1 right away. Probably rightfully so here. Tough break for Lindenwood with the injury. Tough break for Lindenwood that they had to go deep into the night in a very, I don't want to call it physical, but again, I'll say taxing 40 minutes to get that win. I don't know. SEMO makes complete and total sense from a situational and a fundamental. But where the total is concerned, I will say, really tough to gauge when you're talking about 2 games that had a 30-point variance. Here, number sits kind of in the middle, 147.5. I don't know. I don't think I would play it. I think SEMO looks like a more attractive play on the side.
Colin Gregory says, Adam got a great number. You guys would have got a great number too if you were on the Double the Firepower CBB package. Had that out this morning before the move, and pretty much just tried to front run like, hey, like I've had that injury before. Your boy Rob played pretty competitive soccer back in his day. That was the sport that but my first love was baseball, but I couldn't really hit a curveball, which became an issue for me. So I had to become a soccer player because they're like, you can't hit a $190 in like high school baseball. They're not gonna. They don't care how good your defense is. So I've had that hamstring injury a number of times, and you're just not doing anything the next day. Even if you're built much better than me, which most are, you're still not getting through it the next day. So I saw that, and I said, man, if Lindenwood does win this game, I'm probably going to want to be on whoever they're playing. And so, yeah, we did get ourselves a good number. Let's see if it matters. Hopefully it does. All right, Bayou's texting me memes right now. I see he's in a good mood. So we're going to use Bayou's in the parlay today. He's spelled it out, and we're going to talk about his game because I have an opinion here. So this is going in the parlay. Bayou says best bet, Loyola Colgate over 151.5. So he wants to head to a Patriot League semifinal. It's right down the street from my house. I'm not going to it because I'm being a good boy today, so I can go to Brian Powers' college town tomorrow, Athens, Ohio, with like 15 of his friends. And apparently we're getting tuned up before a 9:00 tip per him. I don't know how much I'll partake in that, but it's going to be a time. Let's put it that way. So sitting this one out in Hamilton, New York tonight. But Bayou says best bet, Loyola Colgate over 51.5. This is the exact same game that was 82-82 before OT 2 weeks ago. Colgate's off 2 losses and thrives in conference play. Loyola plays with pace and complements this game style. The final thing I'll throw at you, Rob, is they didn't have Jalen Cox last game. That's massively concerning. He's by far Colgate's best player, and he sat out a pretty meaningful game against Navy because had they been able to win that game, they would have been able to get the 2. Because they lost, they actually lost the 2 seed and they're only the 3, which, as you know, if you follow the Patriot League, is very meaningful since the higher seed hosts in this tournament. I think Jalen Cox will be back tonight. I think it was a concussion. I think it was an abundance of caution that he sat the finale. I can't see him sitting this game. So if Cox is back and everything is what you would consider normal, Robino, do you agree that with Bayou that there's going to be points in this game.
Well, then I'll take Bayou's regular season one step further and just say the first time they played, it was 166, 86-80. So you had the same game played twice, the same exact way twice. At the end of regulation, you've got almost the same score twice. Why would today be any different? Jalen Cox, to your point, was important in both of these games. He played both times against Loyola, Maryland. I think 25 and 28 is what I have right in front of me here. So with him in the lineup, it stands to reason that, these teams played each other twice. Nobody cared to change style. Colgate won it twice. I'm sure Loyola, Maryland, in their minds, thinks that they can win this style of game against them. The losses, as Bayou mentioned, the most recent one was in overtime by 3 points. The one prior was only by 6. They were in both of these games each time. So it's funny, too. The top two pace teams in the Patriot, and because the Patriot is such a slow as molasses type league, the top two pace teams probably don't rank in the top 100 in the country because they just don't, they don't get fast. They go fast, but nobody else goes fast. So when you average out all their games, the numbers look a little lower than expected. But when they faced each other, it's been up tempo. It's been high scoring. It's been really good shooting. It's been little resistance on defense. So it's hard to argue 151.5 when you've seen 160 or better twice already. And I don't think, just trying to use my coach's mind, I don't think either coach would have any reason to stray from that at this point in time. Conference tournament season, you are who you are. And I don't think you devise a completely different game plan at this, here now, 30 games in, to accommodate what's happened the first two times. And the only team that would consider that would be the loser, which was Loyola twice. And I don't think Loyola is going to go that route because, like I said earlier, I have to think that they firmly believe they can beat this team third time around. It's a double revenge spot. If you're looking to play side and you like double revenge inside conference tournament play, then you like the Loyola side in this game. But Keith's point was about total, and you just can't disagree. The numbers in a spot where, I say it a lot, mathematics do the work for you here, and they seem to do it for us in this game.
Yeah, I'll talk about the side before we move on. So, you want to talk about like the most recent game. Colgate looked like they were going to pull away and cover, and Loyola went nuts from 3 in the second half to tie that game and push it into overtime. I think they hit like 15 threes in the game. Now, that is something that a couple of years back, you would never have said that was a possibility against Colgate. Those teams with Tucker Richardson, Keegan Records, some really good defensive Colgate teams. This is really not that. Like last year, I thought Jeff Woodward was this big that they had, this big 6'11" plodding big man that slowed them down, but at least he really clogged up the paint and he could defend the rim and they had some redeeming qualities in that regard. Now it's kind of this like 1-3-1 zone, which will work at times, but I don't know. This Colgate team, they lack that size. They lack that athleticism, in my opinion, on the defensive end, where, yeah, like Loyola's probably going to get some looks from 3 again, but I actually would lean. I would still probably, if I had to play the side here, Rob, I think I would still lay the 6.5 with Colgate. Obviously, I'm assuming Jalen Cox is back, but they got into their offense and did whatever they wanted in both of those meetings. And they really didn't look that bad for 30 minutes in that Navy game over the weekend without Cox. And I truly believe had they had him, that they would have been right in that game and had a chance to win like he is. So I'll just make this statement before we move on. Jalen Cox is hands down the most improved player in this league from last year to this year. Last year, he struggled kind of as the starting point guard. He's one of the best players in this league. And like, I don't think Loyola's got much of an answer for Colgate's offense with Cox pulling the strings and, what they can do. So yeah, if you get Loyola hitting some threes, this could soar over. And if they don't, I think you're going to get a Colgate cover. So good one, Bayou. I don't know what the Wayne's World meme you just texted me was in reference to, but if it's to that, that's great. So hopefully hopefully, and Bayou, you're in until further notice. So you hit this one, you're back in tomorrow. We're like 2-3 teamers away from getting back to even. We had that great run. We got above even by like a unit. We haven't hit one since. So we got to we got to get a 3-teamer here. Rob will close it out before the end of the show. But in the meantime, we're heading back to the main board if my computer will ever allow it. All right, here we go. We got Mad Max. He says, great price on Temple due to recent results. I think they'll have an advantage in the rebounds, turnover battle, playing at home, playing with revenge. Well, Rob, I'll let you get to the point on your odds screen. We're going to talk Temple basketball. I know this is a team that you've brought up a couple of times in recent times on the show. They're at home tonight against Tulane, which Tulane's another one of those teams. My number loves them basically every time they play. I wonder if it's just because they've underachieved, kind of like from what they were. I thought they might be this year, but Temple, man, this was a team that when I went to the Temple game, Super Bowl Sunday, I think it was, or right around that time, I went to a Temple game at noon. I think it was Super Bowl Sunday. They were tied for first in the American on that day, and they lost that game to FAU. They have 6 straight losses, Rob. This was a team that like 6 games into the American season was in a tie for first. They're now in the bottom 4 of this league. So what do you even make of that? And do you have any interest in the great price on Temple, taking them in the free fall that they're currently in? This game's at the Liacouras Center in Philly tonight. Temple Tulane, how are you seeing this one?
Well, you've got season history, right? Tulane won the first time, 77-66. Here's my problem with Temple in this game, and especially with Temple laying points, is we all know that Ron Hunter's going to play like that junky zone defense that you have to shoot. You have to make perimeter shots against this team to beat them. And in the first game, Temple didn't do so. 6 of 25, 24% from three-point range. Tulane's going to make Temple shoot threes, or at least attempt to make Temple shoot threes again. Temple is the 10th best shooting team in the AAC, which I guess if you wanted to switch that around, you would say they're the 4th worst three-point shooting team in the league. So for Tulane, the style is a hand-in-glove fit for them on the defensive end. Play the style of defense that they play, forcing teams to shoot threes, play a team that can't shoot threes, and if one of these nights happens where Temple makes shots, can they win by 5? Maybe they can. On the other side of the equation here, Tulane's frustrating to watch offensively, Adam, because sometimes I think they're way too lackadaisical. Like Rowan Brumbaugh is a great player. We just referenced Bennett Sturts a little while ago for Iowa, right? Rowan Brumbaugh is kind of in the mold of Bennett Sturts. Maybe a little bit of a lesser man's Bennett Sturts, but same type of player. And there's times where he's out there where the passes are too casual, the handle is too casual. But when he is not too casual, he's a hell of an offensive player, and it makes everybody else around him better. They do have scoring ability on the Tulane side. I don't know that I would be on Temple here, to be honest with you. Total's gone up 1 point to 144.5. Now, the first time around, the game hit 143. That sounds about right here if Temple shoots the way they've been shooting all season long. As you mentioned, in a current free fall, that doesn't help them out any here. I don't know that I could get in that boat with Temple here, simply based on what I said. I think the defensive style of Tulane is extremely helpful in this game because of the fact that Temple just doesn't, they're not good at what Tulane does best defensively. You have to be able to overcome their defense by shooting. And real quick here, as far as standings are concerned, if you're Temple, they're separated. These two teams are separated by 1 game inside the standings. So a Temple win could pull them even with Tulane, probably give them a little bit of a tiebreaker where seeding is concerned. But for Tulane, you can go up the ladder here toward the 5 spot in a tie for the 5 spot. And, you know, you're always trying to climb into the top 4 in these conference tournaments. So with one more to play after this, well, actually, they don't have one more to play after this. Their season concludes here. So it would be a massive tiebreaker. And again, I talked about this the other day. When you try to go through these 3 and 4 team tiebreakers, you might as well just wait till they tell you what it's going to be. But I do think Tulane stylistically has a solid advantage over Temple, especially in the Tulane defense, Temple offense matchup.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I want absolutely no part of having to lay like 5 with Temple. They haven't had a home court advantage in a while. They won't get many people at this game. I think I texted you, Rob, cheapest ticket to get into a Temple game and sit upper is $40. What are we doing? How is that even possible? If John Chaney and Pepe Sanchez were there, I'd pay $40 to sit upper to watch that team play. This team, yeah, like this team, no. So I understand why, why they haven't had much of a crowd in a lot of these games. You talked about the Tulane Ron Hunter zone. I actually do think Temple can score against that. So the other thing that zone is not necessarily, it's different, but it's not necessarily a great zone defense. And what I've noticed, the teams that will really score on it are teams that can handle the ball, because he likes to pressure out of it too. So it's like a pressure zone. They'll almost like pick it up 3/4 court. And there's some layups on the back end of that zone if you're not turning the ball over. Temple, to their credit, turns it over as little as any team in the country. They've been a top 5 team in least turnover. The turnover rate is top 5 in America. So the fact that they probably won't turn it over a ton, I could definitely see them getting into some makeable shots. I would look toward the over, because I think they're going to give some points up as well on the other end, especially if Tulane comes to play, which they've been doing of late. I would say Tulane right now. This is a team. The last 2 games, yeah, they got boat raced by Tulsa in South Florida, but those are 2 of the best teams in this league. Prior to that, 4 straight wins. And they have been playing better. So I think I would lean toward the over, because on the flip side, they did give up 90 the past 2 games. So maybe they've, I don't really know how to read into that, but the fact that Temple might get some easier looks here and the ability to break that zone makes me like the over. Hope we did that justice, Mad Max. I wish I had more of an opinion, but hopefully we gave you some things to think about if you are going to bet Temple and Tulane.
Let me give Max a positive, because I didn't give him any positives. It's the second time around. There's game film from Temple playing Tulane zone the first time, right? So you would expect some adjustments, maybe some improvement there. The other side of that is Temple did handle the ball extremely well in that first game. Only 8 turnovers, only 11% of their possessions turned into a turnover, and they still only scored 66. So if you believe in we've seen it once and it was on the road, and this time we're going to handle it because we know what to expect, then you may like Temple especially as far as scoring is concerned. And Adam, in that game, 67 free throw attempts. Tulane can foul. I've watched enough of Tulane to know that they can foul and they can be fouled, because again, Brumbaugh can take anybody off the dribble, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, interesting game. I just don't know that I would be in the market to lay points with Temple, even in a home situation.
All right, let's go to Garth. First of all, Garth, I'll take the blame for Central Connecticut State. That was I was mushing anything I touched yesterday. As I said, bad day for me, 0-3. So I'll take the blame for that one. He said three of the 4 losses on this 11-4 run. He was in the parlay. Well, we won't put you on the spot for that tonight, but I know Rob loves to talk some Big West basketball, especially when it pertains to totals. So he says he likes Long Beach State under the 150.5 tonight. The Big West, of course, is still finishing up, Rob, their regular season. So these are regular season games. And this one's going to be out. Are they still in the pyramid? I think they are. I don't know. I know they I know everything just says the beach now. They abandoned like whatever they used to be, like the 49ers. Now it's just the beach. So I guess we're headed to the beach, where UC Davis will be headed to take on Long Beach State. Garth likes the under. Rob, you've done well with totals in this league, so talk to me a little bit about UC Davis, Long Beach State. Really total or side, whatever you got.
Really quick, home floor still referred to as the Walter Pyramid, so we're still in the pyramid.
Yes.
Okay. No matter how much the beach they want to throw at us. Long Beach got off a huge losing streak last time out against Bakersfield, 88-87. They win, but they had played UC Davis one time prior this year, 71-54 in a fairly high 70 possession game, but only 125 points scored. The matchup here really does suit an under because it's UC Davis as the opponent. Long Beach is a team that, I've had success playing them against other teams that go quick. And it's not really because Long Beach has added all that much. And even when I handicap, I'm not asking Long Beach to do too much in those totals where I play over Northridge, Poly, Slow, all these teams connected to or involved in games with Long Beach. But here, Jim Les, he's not going to play that way. Jim Les D's up. Long Beach's shooting woes probably show up one more time in that first game. They only scored 54 points against this UC Davis defense. So again, styles make everything, matchups make everything. And, again, I'll say this, and Garth probably knows this already, but I'll repeat that season-long statistical stuff where odds makers, power ratings for sides, numbers for totals, they get skewed in games like this. Long Beach State gets skewed because they play Cal Poly, because they play Northridge, because they play Fullerton. And all those high-scoring games get lumped into the whole overall, and you get this picture of a high-scoring team. They're not. They're not a good shoot. They're not the offensive team of the past, Long Beach. So when you pair them against a team like UC Davis that's going to slow you down, that's going to play defense, Jim Les style, that season-long number goes down the drain here, and I think you get a good price range. 150.5 in a game like this is kind of excessive. I just mentioned the first game went 125. Could it get there? Of course it could. But it would actually, Adam, for it to get there, it would have to be a game where UC Davis, because they're pedestrian, hits everything. And on the other end, Long Beach has a couple of stretches on their own home floor where they dictate a little tempo and they, put up 11 points in 3 minutes, something like that, a stretch like that helps their final score total. I think Garth's on the right side here, under 150.5. Again, this is not, Long Beach State doesn't fall into the category of teams I've played all season long, Northridge, Poly, Slow, Fullerton, etc., that are just going to rack up points. So I agree. No sense disagreeing here. We've got one game of proof to show it. You've got 25 points worth of wiggle room off of that game to work with, and you have a matchup that's not going to go quick because, again, anybody who's watched UC Davis under Jim Les's tenure knows they just don't get pushed into pace that often.
Yeah, I'm over here looking at my numbers and whatnot, and I'm kind of trying to figure out why I haven't bet UC Davis yet in this game. Closer, I'm at like 5.2 here. Which is like much bigger of a, that's almost an auto bet a lot of times for me. If I've got I'm looking at a 1 point favorite, 1.5 point favorite, and I'm showing like 4 or 5 points for value, I almost always just, barring some sort of crazy injury, like that's typically going to be a bet for me. I don't think Long Beach has any sort of crazy home court at the Pyramid. Other than it being a cool building. I don't think like people are going out in droves to watch Long Beach State basketball at this point. UC Davis, they've been okay on the road. I think they're like 5-8 on the road this season. Obviously, defense tends to travel. I'm looking at, so first meeting you already pointed out, they destroyed Long Beach, held them to 54 points, 71-54 final. The only thing I get, and I don't even know if this should put me off, Rob, but the only thing that's a little off-putting is the fact that it's the final weekend of conference play, and they're going on the road. And this is where you kind of tend to get those weird results because, again, it's like you're playing for seeding. big game over the weekend against Hawaii. They come up short in their final home game. So now they go on the road. They've got Long Beach. They've got Irvine to finish the year. Even if they go 0-2, they're still 10-10. They're still a 500 team. So that, I guess, like the spot is my only real concern. And then of course, okay, so this is what I always go back and check before I see like a number that's this far off. Cooper didn't play against Hawaii, right? So I need to double check his status, because if Nils Cooper is out, then that makes sense. That makes a little bit more sense, because he would be worth probably a couple points on the numbers. So again, I'll have to go back and double check that. I'll obviously be digging for intel on that. But Garth, if he's out, I mean, he is a double-digit scorer for Davis, and he did not play, just by a quick check, did not play in the Hawaii game. So I can't disagree with your under. I'll be looking into that game further throughout the day. But yeah, and obviously, if you have in the chat, if you know anything about Cooper, let me know. Because I again, even without him, I don't have much faith in this Long Beach State team. So good luck with what you try to do there, Garth. All right, I see some questions in the chat. We'll probably get to one more. I'm going to let Rob close this 3-teamer out if he knows where he wants to go with it.
Yeah, go on to a game. So I'm trying to look up something right now, injury related.
All right, let's talk. Okay, so I did. All right, let's talk more Patriot League basketball. I see folks wanting to talk Navy Bucknell. I wore my Navy zip up, Rob. Not for any real reason, but this is this little anchor here says Navy on it. Got this when I was down in Annapolis last year. Went down to see Navy play. When I saw them play, I kind of knew, I kind of expected this to be the case at some point. I actually, I thought they were going to be the best team in the Patriot League last year. Turns out you bring the whole team back. Like, that helps. You don't see that much in college basketball anymore. But Navy pretty much returned everyone. And they are just running roughshod right now, Rob, on a Patriot League that is not very good. As someone that's watched a lot of Patriot League basketball, lives in Central New York, has followed this conference for years. I think I'm willing to say that this is the worst that I can remember this league. I don't know if that has to do with the fact that it's the worst that I can remember Colgate being in about a decade, or at least like 8 years. But there's just, I think once you now have the Patriot League start losing guys like Noah Williamson and the kid from Colgate that's now at Gonzaga, Smith, right? Like for a while, that was the one thing. People came to the Patriot League. It was almost like an Ivy League-esque where they weren't really leaving. And then you've got Boston University with all sorts of injuries this year. American just graduated 4 seniors. It is a really bad league this year, which leads me into, okay, now we've got Navy. They're the 1 seed. They destroyed everyone. They're laying 15 points in a quarterfinal game in the conference tournament. And Rob, I don't think it's enough. This came down from 17.5, and I'm almost sitting here like, why? I'm inclined to bet Navy at 15. I'm at 19 here at 17.5. I said, okay, yeah, my number is in line. I don't understand why this is getting bet toward Bucknell. That makes 0 sense to me. Bucknell has been awful. Yes, they have that one freshman big that sort of panned out, but Navy has Aiden Kehoe. So at best for Bucknell, those guys cancel each other out. You're not going to beat Navy's. Navy's guard's going to run up and down the floor and do whatever they want. Shane Russell says Navy team total over. I don't see how you just don't lay 15 here. There's 14.5s out there with Navy right now. That is insane. I think they win this game by 20 to 25 points. So I'm going to have to revisit this one when we get off the show, because this should be an absolute bloodbath. What do you think about a team total over? They're talking about that in the chat as well.
Oh, I'm not going to argue off of a Navy team total over. No how, no way. The way they performed inside the Patriot this year, and the defensive ineptitude of the opposition here probably makes Navy team total as good a bet as you're making the side to sound Adam, before I lose my train of thought, let's lock this parlay leg in.
Yeah.
For a minute there, guys, just so you know, and this is going to be big for me heading into the CUSA tournament. As time goes on, I'm beginning to really like Sam Houston State to win this tournament. Sam Houston State is growing on me immensely as the season goes on. And I went to look up the injury because I played, I've been involved in Delaware games this year. Went to look up Tyler Hauser injury. And again, tonight, he's not going to be involved. And I was going to play that game, but then I decided against it. I won't play that game. I will say this it's not because I don't like Sam Houston State. I just mentioned that I do think they have an opportunity to win this tournament, but they've been able to slow teams down no matter where they go. I mean, it is kind of amazing that Delaware is able to play at such a slow pace. Martin Inglesby, ex-Notre Dame head coach, has done a great job at controlling pace. And they have two guards in Bliss and Fernandez that can absolutely take anybody off the dribble. They've gone crazy. Without Hauser, there's a lot on their shoulders. But that game went by the wayside because I just feel this other one is way stronger, or not way stronger, but enough stronger to play here. And that's going to be Middle Tennessee team total over 75.5 against FIU. Again, guys, I said this yesterday about the number with Florida State, just 72.5 seemed off. 75.5 seems off. They played once before. They went overtime. Before they got to overtime, it was 75-75. But you have Jeremy Ballard's team who, I mean, they are kind of fun to watch because it is up and down all over the place, sometimes very helter-skelter. But Middle Tennessee is much more disciplined under Nicholas McDevitt, good head coach for MTSU. And they have scored as of late. Not only did they get to 75 in regulation the first time around against FIU, but they've scored as of late. I just talked about how Delaware slows everybody down. In a 62-possession game, MTSU scored 78 points against Delaware, came back with 77 against UTEP, another team that doesn't want to go anywhere, and you should be able to keep the score down. But MTSU 78-77, and then, of course, last game against New Mexico State, not necessarily a paced team either, 75-75 at the end of regulation. Now you get the fastest paced team in the league. You're going to get, against FIU, you get such easy shots during the game in, not for a full 40 minutes, but in periods of the game. You find a lot of easy points against FIU, whether it's just to the rim, whether it's being fouled, whether it's wide open threes, etc. I don't know how this team doesn't get over 75.5 tonight in an FIU game. Full game total here is 153.5. It's been bet up a little bit. I wouldn't argue anybody off of that, but I just find the more attractive play here being a hot offensively Middle Tennessee State team against a FIU team that, they are what they are every game. I love teams that are constant, consistent, and you know what you're going to get from them. And I know what I'm going to get from FIU is a ton of scoring opportunities, a lot of pace, and not a heck of a lot of defense. So for me, Adam, it's going to be MTSU team total over 75.5. That does come with 25 cents of juice attached to it. So let's use that as that leg of the parlay here, and let's knock this down. I'm just looking real quick here. MTSU with an opportunity to get inside this top four inside the league. So again, a little bit of added motivation for Middle Tennessee, who sits at 5 seed right now.
Listen, I find it like kind of funny. So I got to go down to Murfreesboro earlier this year, the Glass House, Rob, where Middle Tennessee State plays. Notoriously difficult place to shoot the basketball, yet they have a team that just shoots constantly. Like it's almost like if the Rockies decided to roll in and say, you know what, we're going for pitching this year. We're going to go. We're going. I mean, maybe they should because they never win, but like we're just going to go all pitching. Like everyone has a tough time shooting at Middle Tennessee State, and this team just chucks. It's three. It's just three after three after three in their own gym where like no one shoots the ball well. So why am I bringing that up? Because when you get them out on the road, they actually, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it seems to me like being on the road, a lot of the times it's a more favorable like shooting atmosphere. I don't know what it is about that building. It's certainly this big round circle. I don't know if it's the blue everywhere. Like, I really don't know, but no one shoots the ball well at Middle Tennessee State. Now, that's tough. That gives them a nice little home court. But I always find it funny that, or I found it funny. I'm talking to someone at the game earlier this year, and he's like, this team's just does never seen a shot they don't like. He's like, and if they don't go in, we have no chance. But on the flip side, they're probably going to go in against FIU because that's just not a team that really gets like a ton of stops, as you're saying. And now at in what will be a very empty building, I'm sure, because I've been to that one too. No one goes to those games. Might be shooting practice for MTSU tonight. So yeah, I think I'm with you there, Rob. I see Middle Tennessee State. I actually don't even think they should be a dog in this game. They should probably be favored in this game. I'll have to go back and look at this one too. There's just so many games today. I gotta give some a second look. But yeah, I could see them scoring some points here for sure.
Yeah, I would have thought the number would be, anywhere from 78.5 up. We get a 75.5 just from an analytical point of view. MTSU, the fourth best effective field goal percentage shooting team in this league in league play. And FIU, as we've mentioned over and over again, they're the worst at allowing field goal percentage in this league. So you got the fourth best shooting team against the worst. And it's also interesting that MTSU, if that factors in all of their home games to be the number 4 shooting team. So to your point, get them out on the road, get them into a place like this, get them into pace. We saw it the first time around. Like I say, it was 75-75 at the end of regulation in that building where, as you said, shooting is kind of tough to do. So for me, thought the number was low. Think the matchup suits me. We're going to play it. Let's go get them. I think MTSU is headed for 80 plus here tonight.
All right. So Rob, help me out here. The chat is saying the odds makers watch this show. We need to, well, you know what? Let's, in the spirit of conference tournament season, we can get another thought out here quick. And then I'm just going to recap the parlay, and I'll just add in juice where necessary. Because I know the Colgate over took a little bit of money. So there's like 3 people that are asking about Tarleton State. I don't know if that's directed at me, because I obviously, go down there sometimes and follow the program close. It will be Billy Gillespie's last year. I don't even know if he's back on the sideline. I think he's been dealing with a multitude of health issues, and they did announce that he would be stepping down at the end of the year. Again, I have no idea if he's on the sideline for this game tonight, Rob. Maybe he is because it's a home game, but I don't think he was traveling with the team and stuff. So whether he's there or not is irrelevant to me. But the relevant thing here, Rob, would be the fact that Dior Johnson came back over the weekend. That's the big talking point with this game. Dior Johnson was back over the weekend on the road trip. And what did he do? Put up 23 against Utah Valley and 24 against Cal Bap. He's one of the highest scorers in the country. He comes off the bench, still baffling to me, 23.6 points per game. So big rivalry here. Arlington and Tarleton, big rivalry game. Neither these teams do not like each other one bit. There's been a couple scraps at the end of Tarleton-Arlington games in recent years. So, I look at this game. I see the fact that Dior is back. Tarleton's at the bottom of the standings. All 7 of these teams are going to go to the WAC tournament and in WAC in Vegas. And I think Tarleton's going to be in that 6-7 play in either way. But here, final home game of the year, Dior back. Kind of think the home team's a little short here on the number. I make him a little bit bigger of a favorite. So I lean toward Tarleton, but does having Dior Johnson back make you like a total? Do you like the over with him in there? I mean, he's 24 points per game.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to, right? I mean, when you get your best player, your best offensive player. The interesting part of what you just said, Adam, to me is, and I know this is always coach's decision and maybe coach's rotational preference, but to have your best scorer, to have your best offensive player coming off the bench, it doesn't always mean everything because it's who closes the game, not who starts the game, really. And the minutes seem to have been there for him the first couple. But yeah, when you're tacking on a guy that's 20 plus points per game, but you have to make sure the odds makers have not accounted for it as of yet. And in this Tarleton game. You're staring at a number that's, 136.5. It started 134. It just seems a little bit low.
And I'll make about that because I know we're up against it here. Like Arlington is a defensive, like that is what they're good at, right? That is what that Arlington team is better at, sort of defending you and playing that low scoring game. But I got to wonder, like, they're pretty much locked into their spot in the WAC tournament. They're going on the road here. Like, I wonder how much they truly care about this game. Like, I just don't know if this is the spot you're going to get your, like, hardcore defensive effort from Arlington. And if you're not, that number becomes a little bit low, and I can kind of see why that got bet up just a tiny bit. That's just my thought. I'm not saying play it, but I can kind of see why the over money is starting to come in there. All right, we are at the 11 a.m. mark, and let's recap the parlay quick. I'll attach different. So here's the deal with the parlay. Some of these things are going to have different juice. Southeast Missouri State money line, I think it's like minus 180. I'm going to go Colgate Loyola over 152 for Bayou's leg. If it's 152.5 or 153, just buy it down, and I'll attach minus 125 juice to that. And then I'm going to attach minus 125 juice to Middle Tennessee State team total over 75.5. That's your parlay 3-teamer for today. Appreciate you guys in the chat. You guys make this show what it is. We love coming here and doing it, and we will be back to do it in the morning tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, for more Full Court Press. Have a great day, everyone, and we will see you guys in the morning.